Justin, thank you so much for joining me on Outlier Academy as part of our Outlier Founders series. I really appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
So I am so excited about this. When I asked you if you would come on, I had my fingers crossed because one, I'm a big fan of Kettle Fire. It's been cool to see the number of companies you've started and just kind of the progression. So we're going to cover a ton of ground here, from talking about Kettle Fire, Perfect Keto, Shirley. I want to get into your approach to building these companies, what you've learned. We have a ton of ground to cover. Where I want to start is for a quick sketch of your background, because I think the lead in here, you've got a newsletter called The Next. I'm just going to read something from for a second. And in the lead in, it says, in the last 4 years, I've founded 3 health brands, Kettle Fire, Perfect Keto, Shirley, which each do tens of millions in revenue. I've raised $20 million to build Kettle Fire, gotten into 10,000 plus retail stores, bootstrapped Perfect Keto, launched 80 plus SKUs, super impressive list, and have a small portfolio of Shopify apps, that I run on the side. That's just in the last 4 years. So take us back earlier on and paint, kind of connect the dots and help give us a sense of your journey.
Yeah. So thanks so much for having me, first off. So where should I start? How early?
Man, I mean, wherever you think is an interesting moment in time. I don't know if there's anything formative in your youth. I know in college you experimented with paleo that probably led to some of this. So wherever makes sense.
So I think that a lot of this stuff probably started where I grew up in DC. And then after I graduated high school in 2008, my family moved to rural Pennsylvania. So to like a really, really tiny town outside of Philadelphia. It's not great. Like I didn't really enjoy living there, and I didn't know anyone. I knew literally no one for 100 miles or whatever. And so my first summer, like my first 2 summers after college, I would come home and I would know literally no one. And so my summer after my freshman year, I basically came back and I didn't know anyone. I was working as a janitor at LA Fitness. I was also working construction, doing pool plastering. And I was just pretty miserable, honestly. And so it was around that time that I first came across the 4-Hour Workweek, which was the very formative book for me, I would say. And that was the first thing that I read where I was like, entrepreneurship is a thing. Like I could just try and build my own, company. I could make money on my own volition. And as someone who at that point in my life had been fired from 13 jobs, literally every job I
Wow,
had,
it's impressive.
would later, yeah, I know. And I later would get fired from LA Fitness and the pool plastering job. So I'd been fired from everything. And I was like, maybe this is sort of an answer to my seeming inability to really get excited and dive in and do stuff that I don't like for people that I don't really respect. And so that's when I started working on my first company. I started my first company called Roommate Fit. When I was in college, I had a bad freshman year roommate. Just thought that, because I was a college student, there were a bunch of other college students who were also unhappy with their roommates. And there must be something that you could do, like building an eHarmony for roommates would be an amazing idea. And it was a horrible, horrible idea for many reasons. But basically that kind of got me started in this entrepreneurship world. And as I got more and more into it, even though that business didn't work at all, we made $1,000 in revenue over the lifetime of the business. And then the one university that hired us for $1,000, I lost the check that they'd sent us. And so they had to charge a $15 reissue fee. So the company's official revenue is $985 over its lifetime. But yeah, I mean, that got me started on this broader journey of figuring out how to be an entrepreneur, how to build companies, how to do all this kind of stuff, which has been very rewarding in general.
Yeah. We're going to talk about, the companies that you've been building over the last 4 years, but I understand, at least if I'm getting it right, it's kind of foggy from doing the research, but I think you started a company that got acquired. And so maybe one way of asking the question would be, talk a little bit about the first time you had a company you founded or were a part of and it was successful, maybe what you learned from that experience.
Yeah, totally. So after starting Roommate Fit, I went out to San Francisco. I was working with another startup that was in the Pittsburgh area where I went to school. And when I was in SF, I met a guy that was just starting to do a roll up in 2012, I guess this was, where he was buying different software businesses, SaaS businesses in 2012, rolling them up and, building a portfolio of these things. And so he was 36, 37. He'd been successful. He started multiple companies that had done exceptionally well. And he was basically like, hey, do you want to come work with me and help build this company? And so I moved out to Las Vegas to build a Las Vegas office for what we were doing, and was traveling back and forth to San Francisco. And like, we acquired basically 4 software apps. We grew them. I think we like a little bit over doubled them in a 12-ish month period. And then at the end of that, we sold the portfolio to Rackspace, which was then like a publicly traded hosting company based in San Antonio. And so that was sort of my first acquisition where I'd like gotten involved with this guy, worked super hard, super closely with him. And we had taken something from, granted it had a revenue base, we were acquiring companies, not building from scratch, but that was really like my first win. And it led to me moving to San Francisco as part of the acquisition. I made some money from that sale, and it was like really a tremendous outcome.
Did that give you confidence that, okay, this was achievable? I'm just thinking here you are, you've been fired from all these jobs. You've tried something that, was successful, but not successful. You have something that's now successful. What does that change? I mean, for you, was it validation that you're on the right track? Was it like, I can do this? What was changing mentally?
I wish that I had felt more of that. Like, I wish that I had allowed myself to be like, good job, but instead I sort of took the opposite of view, and I was like, oh, I could never have done that by myself. Oh, I didn't do this. It wasn't really my win. We were buying businesses, not optimizing them. The market's good. Jonathan is a genius, all of which are true. But I don't think that I let myself like feel like I had earned that win or in any way, and like, I certainly was not the main person that pushed those companies forward. So I think that was true to an extent. But I think I also could have felt a little bit better about the role that I played, as opposed to like, I just like wrote it to 0 and I was like, I'm not going to feel good about myself until I have a win, until I've started something myself,
Totally. So, I mean, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe it gives you a positive chip in your shoulder, to that degree of like, okay, now let me go do this on my own.